most mobile apps have two major components to get them to work. There's the client, which is the app running on the device, whether that's the iPhone, the iPad, the Mac. And this is probably what you think of when you picture an app. It's the user interface, the buttons, the animations, navigating through the screens. But for a lot of apps, the client needs to get data from the internet, like the latest weather, sports scores, or the answer to whatever you ask ChatGPT. And this data lives on a server in some data center somewhere. So how it works, the client, which is the app on the device, will make a request to the server via the internet for some data. Once the server receives that request, it does what it needs to do to process it, and then it sends back the data to the client. And once the client receives that data it requested, its job is to now take that data, which is usually text, and turn it into the pretty UI that the user sees and can interact with on the app. So the client and the server communicate back and forth to request and receive data to show in the app. And this is also how your data can stay in sync between devices. For example, this is how all your notes from the Apple Notes app are in sync between your iPhone, iPad, and Mac. Hosting your data on a server is also what allows for the shared experience, like the whole social networking thing, posting something, liking on it, commenting on it, messaging, collaborating on a document, leaderboards in a game. The simple way to think about it is all the data is in this stored central location, and then all the users have their own clients, which are on their own individual phones, and they can access all that central data. That's how we can all see the same stuff on social media. And storing data on a server is also important because if you stored all that data on the client, on the device, if the user deletes the app, well, now they're deleting all that data as well. So if you want to preserve the user's data, even if they delete the app, you're going to need a server for that. So now you might be wondering, how do I get a server or set this up for this app that I'm trying to build? It sounds complicated. And it kind of is, to be honest, but there's a few different options you have with varying complexity, and hopefully this can point you in the right direction. First of all, you might not even need your own server. If the data already exists, take weather data for example. There are services out there that will provide you the latest weather data. Same thing with sports scores. And these AI labs like OpenAI with ChatGPT, they can give you access to use their models in your app. Now the trade-off is you're paying for that service, but then again, you also don't have to build that whole server, build that infrastructure, collect all that data yourself. So usually it's worth it. And the pricing is typically usage-based. For example, it might be like 0.001 cent per request. So how much it costs scales with how big your app is. So if you only have a couple thousand users, probably not going to be that expensive. If you have millions and millions and millions of users, it might be expensive now. But if you have millions and millions of users, you're probably making decent money, so it might not be that big a deal. All right, so what if the data doesn't already exist for your app? For example, let's say you're building a basic to-do app and you want the user's to-do list to sync across all their devices. So that data is unique to your app. It's not real-world data like weather or sports scores. So you are going to need your own database and server for that. But like I said, you got a couple options. The first one is you could build it yourself. But if you're here watching this video and you're a beginner and you're not a web developer, that's probably not the route you want to go. The route you probably want to take is called backend-as-a-service. And these are services that will set up a database, handle authentication, handle all the server stuff for you. Now, the first option I want to tell you about is called CloudKit. That is Apple's first-party version of this. And it works great. It's what powers Apple Notes, Calendar, Reminders, Photos. It's the framework that Apple uses themselves. So if you're building an app for Apple platforms, this is a route you should consider. And we've done a video on the channel explaining CloudKit a little more in depth. You can check that out. I'll put the link in the description. There's also third-party options like Supabase or Firebase. Again, they'll help you set up the server, authentication, database, all that stuff. And all these options give you a nice dashboard to manage everything in. And Bitrig already has built-in support for CloudKit, so if you're building an app for Apple platforms, that's a great option. And support for third-party platforms like Supabase is coming soon. And if you're not familiar with Bitrig, it's a Mac app that helps you build high-quality, premium, native Swift apps with AI. It's built by the co-creators of SwiftUI that were formerly at Apple, so it integrates seamlessly with first-party Apple frameworks like CloudKit, like we've been talking about. The team is rapidly shipping updates. They ship every week, so the product keeps getting better and better and better. Check it out at bitrig.com.